Hi guys, I'm starting to think that people like Anne Widdecombe are not actually attempting to troll the public, but instead believe the rubbish that comes out of their own mouths. Now, she appeared on Talk TV to discuss, for some reason, the European Court of Human Rights. You see, racists and bigots who support the Tory party and now Reform UK, the party which is the leftovers from the Brexit party, which Anne was a member of, well, these people have been convinced by both right-wing media outlets and politicians that in order to, and I quote, stop the boats, the UK needs to withdraw from the European Court of Human Rights. Anne clearly doesn't understand what the court or the convention actually means. Have a listen to this.
And if we did leave the ECHR, then at least we have the tools to become a self-governing country and actually take matters into our own hands, don't we?
Well, yes, and I mean, that is the whole point. You know, we've had a lot of fights recently about being self-governing. You know, Brexit was one. And yet we still accept interference from the ECJ. And the ECHR is now another, a completely separate issue. And we do get an awful lot of people telling us what to do. Well, it's time we simply turned around and said, sorry, Britain's running Britain. I mean, it's not a difficult message. Britain's running Britain. Rishi Sunak is too cautious.
What the hell does that mean? Britain is running Britain. Now, either Anne doesn't know this or Anne is pretending not to know this, and I think it's probably the latter. Britain obviously has a judge representing Britain at the European Court of Human Rights. So it's not a foreign court telling Britain what to do. Britain has input within that court. Okay, it has a representative within, sitting in that court. So it's not a foreign court. But let's expand this idea. So because the UK is following the rulings from the European Court of Human Rights, and remember, the European Court of Human Rights has nothing to do with the EU, okay? But it's the Council of Europe. But if the UK is following rulings by that court, and for Anne Widdecombe, this is a breach of sovereignty, then surely Anne would support the UK withdrawing from NATO. Because, once again, NATO is an international organisation. It sets rules and Britain has to follow those rules. The same for the World Trade Organisation. Is Anne Widdecombe and her friends on Talk TV advocating for leaving the World Trade Organisation because, it's telling us what to do? Foreigners telling us what to do. I'd add the United Nations, but she probably also wants to leave the United Nations. What problems does Anne Widdecombe have with the European Court of Human Rights? Because it upholds things like the right to life, protection from slavery, protection from torture, the right to liberty and security, the right to a free trial, the right to respect of your privacy, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, the right to marry, things like this. Which of these things is a problem for Anne Widdecombe? Which of these things is a problem for those who've been advocating for Britain to leave the European Court of Human Rights? And I've said before, leaving the European Court of Human Rights would put the Good Friday Agreement in jeopardy. That's why I don't think the UK government is going to do it. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's even remotely unlikely, but I don't see it happening because of the consequences for the UK government from both the European Union, the sanctions imposed by the European Union and the United States if the UK were to put the Good Friday Agreement in jeopardy. It also impacts, for example, devolution in Scotland. So if you were to change these things, you would probably need a referendum, or you would need an act of parliament and an act of union, or perhaps this would require a lot of political effort. I don't see this happening. So this is, and we've been here before. I talked about this in another video where the threat to leave the European Court of Human Rights was brought up in 2015, before the Brexit referendum. We're talking about that amount of time ago, and it's probably been used in the past before that as well. It's a threat. It's an attempt to throw some red meat to the base, to convince racists and bigots, don't worry, we're going to leave this and then we're going to fix all these problems. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.